First Samuel chapter 1. Elkanah and his family at Shiloh. There was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Judite from the hill country of the Ephraim. His name was Elkanah, the son of Zeram, son of the Elu, son of Toh, son of Zub, and Ephraimite. He had two wives, one named Hannah, the other is Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Each year, this man went out from his city to worship and offer sacrifice to the Lord of the host at Shiloh, where the two sons of the Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were ministering as priests of the Lord. When the day came from Elkanah to offer sacrifice, he used to give a portion to his wife Peninnah, to all her sons and daughters. But he would give a double portion to Hannah because he loved her, though the Lord had closed her wombs. Her rival to upset her would torment her constantly, since the Lord has closed her wombs. Year and year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, Peninnah would provoke her, and Hannah would weep and refuse to eat. Elkanah, her husband, would say to her, "Hannah, why are you weeping? Why are you not eating? Why are you so miserable? Am I not better for you than 10 sons?" Hannah prayed. Hannah rose after one such meal at the Shiloh and presented herself before the Lord. At the time, Eli the priest was sitting on a chair near the doorpost of the Lord's temple. In her bitterness, she prayed to the Lord, weeping freely, and made this vow, "O Lord of hosts, if you look with pity on the hardship of your servant, if you remember me and do not forget me, if you gave your handmaid a male child, I'll give him to the Lord all the day of his life. No razor shall ever touch his head." As she continued praying before the Lord, Eli watched her mouth. For Hannah was praying silently, though her lips were moving. Her voice could not be heard. Eli, thinking she was drunk, said to her, "How long will you make a drunken spectacle of yourself? Sober out from your wine." "No, my Lord," Anna answered, "I am the unhappy woman. I have had neither wine nor liquor. I was only pouring out my heart to the Lord. Do not think your servant a worthless woman. My prayer has been prompted by the deep sorrow and misery." Allah said, "Go in peace, and may God of the Israel grant you what you have requested." She replied, "Let your servant find favor in your eyes," and left. She went to her quarters, ate and drank with her husband, and no longer appeared downhearted. Early the next morning, they worshipped before the Lord and then returned their home in Ramah. When they returned, Elkanah had intercourse with his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. Hannah bears a son. She conceived, and at the end of her pregnancy bore a son whom she named Samuel, because I asked the Lord for him. The next time her husband Elkanah was going up with the rest of his household to offer the customary sacrifice to the Lord and to fulfill his vows, Hannah did not go, explaining to her husband, "Once the child is weaned, I will take him to appear before the Lord and leave him there forever." Her husband Elkanah answered her, "Do not do what you think best. Wait until you have weaned him. Only may the Lord fulfill his words." And so she remained at home and nursed her son until she had weaned him. Hannah presented Samuel to the Lord. Once he was weaned, she brought him up with her along with the 3-year-old bulls, an ephah of the flour and the skin of the wine, and presented him at the house of the Lord in Shiloh. After they had slaughtered the bull, they brought the child to Eli. The Hannah spoke up, "Excuse me, my Lord, as you live, my Lord, I am the woman who stood here near you, praying to the Lord. I prayed for this child, and the Lord granted my request. Now I, in return, give him to the Lord. As long as he lives, she shall be dedicated to the Lord." Then they worshiped there before the Lord. 1 Samuel chapter 2. And Hannah prayed, "My heart exalted in the Lord, my horn is exalted by my God. I have swallowed up my enemies, I rejoice in your victories. There is no holy one like the Lord, there is no rock like our God. Speak boastfully no longer, do not let the arrows issue from your mouth. For an all-knowing God is the Lord, a God who weighs actions. The bows of the mighty are broken, while the tottering gird on strength. The well-fed hire themselves out for bread, while the hungry no longer have to toil. The barren wife bears 7 sons, while the mother of the many languishes. The Lord put to death and gives life, casts down to the Sheol and brings up again. The Lord makes poor and makes rich, humbles and also exalts. He raised the needy from the dust, from the ashes he lifted up the poor, to sit them with the nobles and make glorious the throne their heritages. For the pillar of the earth are the Lord's, and he has set the world upon them. He guards the footsteps of his faithful ones, but the wicked shall perish in the darkness. For not by strength does one prevail. When the Elkanah returned home to the Ramah, the child remained in the service of the Lord under the priest Eli. Wickedness of the Eli's sons. Now the sons of the Eli were wicked, they had respect neither for the Lord, nor for the priest's duty toward the people. When someone offered a sacrifice, the priest's servant would come with the 3-pronged fork while the meat was still boiling, and would thrust it into the basin, cadron, or pot. Whatever the fork brought up, the priest would take for himself. They treated all the Israelites who came to the sanctuary at the Shiloh in this way. In fact, even before the fat was burned, the priest's servant would come and say to the one offering the sacrifice, "Give me some meat to roast for the priest. He will not accept boiled meat from you, only raw meat." And if this one protested, "Let the fat be burned first, then take whatever you wish," he would reply, "No, give it to me now, or else I will take it by force." Thus the young man sinned grievously in the presence of the Lord, treating the offering to the Lord with disdain. The Lord rewards Hannah. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel, wearing the linen ephod, was serving in the presence of the Lord. His mother used to make a little garment for him, which she would bring him each time she went up with her husband to offer the customary sacrifice. And Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife as they were leaving for home. He would say, "May the Lord repay you with children from this woman for the gift she has made to the Lord." The Lord favored Hannah so that she conceived and gave birth to 3 more sons and 2 daughters, while young Samuel grew up in the service of the Lord. Eli's futile rebuke. When Eli was very old, he kept hearing how his sons were treating all Israel, and that they were behaving promiscuously with the woman serving at the entry of the meeting tent. So he said to them, "Why are you doing such things? I hear from everyone that your behavior is depraved. Stop this, my sons. The report that I hear the Lord people spreading is not good." If someone sins against another, anyone can intercede for the sinner with the Lord. But if anyone sins against the Lord, who can intercede for the sinner? But they disregarded their father's warning, since the Lord wanted them dead. Meanwhile, young Samuel was growing in the stature and in worth in the estimation of the Lord and the peoples. The fate of the Eli house. A man of God came to Eli and said to him, "Thus says the Lord, I went so far as to reveal myself to your father's house, when they were in Egypt as slaves to the house of the Pharaohs. I chose them out of all tribes of Israel to be my priests, to go up to my altar, to burn incense, and to wear the ephod in my presence. And I assigned all the fire offering of the Israelites to your father's house. Why do you stare greedily at my sacrifice and at the offering that I have prescribed? Why do you honor your son more than you honor me, fattening yourself with the choicest part of every offering of my people Israel? This therefore is the oracle of the Lord, the God of the Israel. I said in the past, your family and your father's house should minister in my presence forever. But now, oracle of the Lord, far be it from me. I honor those who honor me, but those who despise me shall be cursed. Yes, the days are coming when I will break your strength and the strength of your father's house, so that no one in your family lives to old age. You shall witness like a disappointed rival all the benefits enjoyed by Israel, but no member of your household shall ever grow old. I will leave one man at my altar to wear out his eyes and waste his strength, but the rest of your family shall die by the sword. This is a sign for you what happens to you, your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas. Both of them will die on the same day. I will choose a faithful priest who shall do what I have in the heart and the mind. I will establish in a resting house for him, which shall function in the presence of my anointed forever. Then whoever is left of your family will grovel before him for a piece of the silver or a loaf of the bread, saying, Please assign me the priestly function, that I may have a crust of bread to eat. 1 Samuel chapter 3, Revelation to Samuel. During the time young Samuel was minister to the Lord under Eli, the word of the Lord was scarce and the vision infrequent. One day Eli was asleep in his usual place. His eyes had lately grown so weak that he could not see. The lamp of God was not yet extinguished, and Samuel was sleeping in the temple of the Lord where the ark of God was. The Lord called to Samuel, who answered, Here I am. He ran to Eli and said, Here I am. You called me. I did not call you. Eli answered, Go back to sleep. So we went back to sleep. Again the Lord called Samuel, who rose and went to Eli. Here I am, he said. You called me, but he answered, I did not call you, my son. Go back to sleep. Samuel did not yet recognize the Lord, since the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. The Lord called Samuel again for the third time. Getting up and going to Eli, he said, Here I am, you called me. Then Eli understood that the Lord was calling the youth. So he said to Samuel, Go to sleep, and if you are called, reply, Speak. Lord, for your servant is listening. When Samuel went to sleep in his place, the Lord came and stood there, calling out as before, Samuel, Samuel, Samuel. Answered, Speak, for your servant is listening. The Lord said to Samuel, I am about to do something in Israel that will make ears to everyone who hears it ring. On that day I will carry out against Eli everything I have said about his house, beginning to end. I announced to him that I am condemning his house once and for all because of this crime. Though he knew his sons were blaspheming God, he did not reprove them. Therefore I swear to Eli's house, no sacrifice or offering will ever expiate its crime. Samuel then slept until morning. When he got up early and opened the door of the temple of the Lord, he was afraid to tell Eli the vision. But Eli called to him, Samuel, my son. He replied, Here I am. Then Eli asked, What did he say to you? Hide nothing from me. My God do this to you and more, if you hide from me a single thing he told you. So Samuel told him everything and held nothing back. Eli answered, It is the Lord what is pleasing in the Lord's sight. The Lord will do. Samuel acknowledged as a prophet. Samuel grew and the Lord was with him, not permitting any word of his to go unfulfilled. Thus all Israel from Dan to Beersheba came to know that Samuel was a trustworthy prophet of the Lord. The Lord continued to appear at the Shiloh, manifesting himself to Samuel at the Shiloh through his word. Samuel's word spread throughout Israel. 1 Samuel chapter 4, defeat of the Israelites. At that time, the Philistines gathered for an attack on Israel. Israel went out to engage them in battle and encamped at the Ebenezer, while the Philistines camped at the Alphax. The Philistines then drew up in the battle formation against Israel. After a fierce struggle, Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 men on the battlefield. When the troops retired to the camp, the elder of the Israel said, Why has the Lord permitted us to be defeated today by the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the Lord from Shiloh, that it may go into battle among us and save us from the grasp for our enemies. Loss of the ark. So the people sent to Shiloh and brought from there the ark of the Lord of hosts, who is enthroned upon the cherubim. The two sons of the Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, accompanied the ark of the God. When the ark of the Lord arrived in the camp, all Israel shouted so loudly that the earth shook. The Philistines, hearing the uproar, asked, What does this loud shouting in the camp of the Hebrew means? On learning that the ark of the Lord had come into the camp, the Philistines were frightened, crying out, God had come to their camp. What to us? This has never happened before. What to us who can deliver us from the power of this mighty God? These are the gods who struck the Egyptians with the various plagues in the desert. Take courage and act like soldiers, Philistines, otherwise you will become slaves to the Hebrews. As they were your slaves, fight like soldiers. The Philistines fought and Israel was defeated. Everyone fled to their own tent. It was a disastrous defeat. Israel lost 30,000 foot soldiers. The ark of God was captured and Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were dead. Death of Eli. A Benjaminite fled from the battlefield and reached the Shiloh that same day, with his clothes torn and his head covered with dirt. When he arrived, Eli was sitting in his chair beside the gate, watching the road, for he was troubled at heart about the ark of God. The man, however, went into the city to announce his news. Then the whole city cried out. When Eli heard the uproar, he wondered why there was such a commotion. Just then the man rushed up to inform him. Eli was 98 years old and his eyes would not focus, so he could not see. The man said to Eli, I have come from the battlefield. Today I fled from there. He asked, What happened, my son? And the messenger answered, Israel fled from the Philistines. In fact, the troops suffered heavy losses. Your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead. At this mention of the Ark of God, Ali fell backward from his chair into the gateway. He died of the broken neck since he was an old man and had judged Israel for 40 years. His daughter-in-law, the wife of the Phinehas, was pregnant and about to give birth when she heard the news about the capture of the Ark of God and the death of her father-in-law and her husband. She crouched down in a rave and gave birth. She was about to die when the woman standing around her said to her, "Do not be afraid, you have given birth to a son." Yet she neither answered nor paid any attention. She named the child Ichabod, saying, "God is the glory from Israel," referring to the capture of the Ark of God and to her father-in-law and her husband. She said, "God is the glory from Israel," because the Ark of God had been captured. 1 Samuel chapter 5, the Ark in the temple of the Dagon. The Philistines, having captured the Ark of God, transported in the Ebenezer to Ashdod. They then took the Ark of God and brought it into the temple of the Dagon, placing it beside Dagon. When the people of the Ashdod rose early the next morning, Dagon was lying face down on the ground before the Ark of the Lord. So they picked Dagon up and put him back in his place. But early in the next morning, when they arose, Dagon lay face down on the ground before the Ark of the Lord, his head and hands broken up and lying on the threshold, his trunk alone intact. For this reason, neither the priest of the Dagon nor any other who entered the temple of the Dagon tread on the threshold of the Dagon in Ashdod to this very day. The ark is carried about. Now the hand of the Lord weighed heavily on the people of the Ashdod, ravaging them and afflicting the city and its vicinity with tumors. On seeing how matters stood, the people of the Ashdod decided the Ark of God of the Israel must not remain with us, for his hand weighs heavily on us and Dagon our God. So they summoned all the Philistine leaders and inquired of them, "What shall we do with the Ark of the God of the Israel?" The people of the Gads replied, "Let them move the Ark of the God of the Israel to us." So they moved the Ark of God of Israel to Gath. But after it had been brought there, the hand of the Lord was against the city, resulting in the utter turmoil. The Lord afflicted its inhabitants, young and old, and the tumors broke out on them. The Ark of God was next sent to Ekron, but as it entered that city, the people there cried out, "Why have they brought the Ark of the God of Israel here to kill us and our kindred?" Then they too sent a summons to all the Philistine leaders are prayed, "Send away the Ark of God of the Israel, send it back to its place so it does not kill us and our kindred." A deadly panic had seized the whole city since the hand of the God lay heavy upon it. Those who escaped death were afflicted with tumors, thus the outcry from the city went up to the heavens. 1 Samuel chapter 6, the ark is returned. The ark of the Lord had been in the land of the Philistines 7 months. When they summoned the priests and the diviners to ask, "What shall we do with the ark of the Lord? Tell us what should send back with it." They replied, "If you intend to send back the ark of the God of Israel, you must not send it alone, but must by all means make amends to God through the reparation offerings. Then you will be healed and will learn why God continued to afflict you." When asked further what reparation offering should be our amends to God, they replied, 5 golden tumors and 5 golden mice to correspond to the number of the Philistine leaders, since the same plague has struck all of you and your leaders. Therefore make image of the tumors and of the mice that are devastating your land and so give glory to the God of Israel. Perhaps then God will lift his hand from you, your God and your land. Why should you become stubborn the way the Egyptian and the Pharaoh was stubborn? Was it not after he had dealt ruthlessly with them that Israelites were released and departed? So now set to work and make a new cart, then take to milk cows that have not borne the yoke. Hitch them to the cart, but drive their calves indoors away from them. You shall next take the ark of the Lord and place it on the cart, putting the golden article that you are offering as a reparation for your guilt in the box beside it. Start it on its ways and let it go. Then watch it if it goes up to Beth Shemesh along the route to the Lord's territories. Then it was the Lord who brought this great calamity upon us. If not, he will know that it was not the Lord's hand, but a bad turn that struck us. The ark in Beth Shemesh. They act upon this advice, taking to milk cows. They hitched them to the cart, but shut up the calves indoors. Then they placed the ark of the Lord on the cart, along with the box containing the golden mice and the image of the tumors. The cows went straight for the route to the Beth Shemesh and continued along this road, mooning as they went, turning neither right nor left. The Philistine leaders followed them as far as the border of the Beth Shemesh. The people of the Beth Shemesh were harvesting the wheat in the valley. They looked up and rejoiced when they saw the ark. The cart came to the field of the Joshua the Beth Shemite and stopped there. At a rising stone in the field, the wood of the cart was split up and the cows were offered as a burnt offering to the Lord. The Levite, meanwhile, had taken down the ark of God and the box beside it with the golden articles, and had placed them on the great stone. The people of Beth Shemesh also offered other burnt offering and sacrifice to the Lord that day. After witnessing this, the 5 Philistine leaders returned to Ekron the same day. The golden tumors the Philistines sent back as a reparation offering to the Lord were as follows: 1 for Ashdod, 1 for Gaza, 1 for Ashkelon, 1 for Gaza, and 1 for Ekron. The golden mines, however, corresponded to the number of all the city of the Philistines belonged to the 5 leaders, including 45 cities and open villages. The right stone on which the ark of the Lord was placed is still in the field of the Joshua, the Beth Shemite at the present time. Penalty for irreverence. The descendant of the Jeconiah did not join in the celebration with the inhabitants of the Beth Shemesh when they saw the ark of the Lord. 70 of them were struck down. The people mourned over the great calamity which the Lord had inflicted upon them. The men of Beth Shemesh asked, "Who can stand in the presence of the Lord, his holy God? To whom can ark go so that we are rid of it?" They then sent a messenger to the inhabitants of the Kiriath-Jearim, saying, "The Philistines had returned the ark of the Lord, came down and get it." 1 Samuel chapter 7. So inhabitants of the Kiriath-Jearim came for the ark of the Lord and brought it into the house of the Abinadab on the hills, appointing his son the Eleazar as guardian of the ark of the Lord, Samuel the judge. From the day the ark came to rest in the Kiriath-Jearim, a long time, 20 years elapsed, and the whole house of the Israel turned to the Lord. Then Samuel addressed the whole house of the Israel, "If you would return to the Lord with your whole heart, remove your foreign god and your astartes, fix your heart on the Lord, and serve him alone, then the Lord will deliver you from hand of your Philistines." So Israel removed their Baals and Astartes and served the Lord alone. Samuel then gave orders, gather all Israel to Mizpah, that I may pray to the Lord for you. When they had gathered at Mizpah, they drew water and poured it out on the ground before the Lord, and they fasted that day, saying, We have sinned against the Lord. It was at Mizpah that Samuel began to judge the Israelites, out of the Philistines. When the Philistines heard that the Israelites had gathered at the Mizpah, their leader went up against Israel. Hearing this, the Israelites became afraid of the Philistines, and appealed to Samuel, Do not stop crying out to the Lord our God for us, to save us from the hand of the Philistines. Samuel therefore took an unweaned lamb and offered it whole as a burnt offering to the Lord. He cried out to the Lord for the Israel, and the Lord answered him. While Samuel was sacrificed the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near for battle with the Israelites. That day, however, the Lord thundered loud against the Philistines, and threw them into such confusion that they were defeated by Israel. Thereupon the Israelites rushed out from the Mizpah and pursued the Philistines, striking them down even beyond the Bethkar. Samuel then took a stone and placed it between Mizpah and Jeshanah. He named it Ebenezer, explaining, As far as this place, the Lord has been our help. Thus was the Philistines subdued, never again to enter the territory of the Israel, for the hand of the Lord was against them as long as Samuel lived. The city from the Ekron to Gath, which the Philistines had taken from Israel, were restored to them. Israel also freed the territory of these cities from the Philistine domination. There was also peace between Israel and the Amorites. Samuel judged Israel as long as he lived. He made the yearly circuit, passing through Bethel, Gilgal, and Mizpah, and judging Israel at each of these places. Then he used to return to Ramah, for that was his home. There too he judged Israel and built an altar to the Lord. 1 Samuel chapter 7. So the inhabitants request for king. In his old age, Samuel appointed his son judges over Israel. His firstborn was named Joel, his second son Abijah. They judged at Beersheba. His sons did not follow his example, but looked to their own gain, accepting bribes and perverting justice. Therefore all the elders of the Israel assembled and went to Samuel at Ramah, and said to him, Now that you are old and your sons do not follow your example, appoint a king over us, like all nations, to rule us. Samuel was displeased when they said, Give us a king to rule us, but he prayed to the Lord. The Lord said, Listen to whatever the people say. You are not the one they are rejecting. They are rejecting me as their kings. They are acting toward you just as they have acted from the day I brought them up from Egypt to this very day, deserting me to serve other gods. Now listen to them, but at the same time give them a solemn warning and inform them of the right of the king who will rule them, the governance of the king. Samuel delivered the message of the Lord in full to those who were asking him for a king. He told them, The governance of the king who will rule you will be as follows. He will take your son and assign them to his chariot and horses, and they will run before his chariot. He will appoint from among them his command of the thousands of the hundreds. He will take them, do his plowing and harvesting, and produce his weapons of the war and the charioteries. He will use your daughter as perfumers, cooks, and bakers. He will take your best fields, vineyard, and olive groves and give them to his servant. He will tithe your crops and the grape harvest to give to his official and his servant. He will take your male and female slaves as well as your best oxen and donkeys and use them to do his work. He will also tithe your flocks as for you, you will become his slaves. On that day you will cry out because of the king whom you have chosen, but the Lord will not answer you on that day. Persistent demand. The people, however, refused to listen to Samuel's warning and said, "No, there must be a king over us. Who too must be like all the nations with the king to rule us, lead us in the warfare, and fight our battles." Samuel listened to all the concerns of the people and then repeated them to the Lord. The Lord said, "Listen to them, appoint a king to rule over them." Then Samuel said to the people of Israel, "Return, each one of you, to your own city." 1 Samuel chapter 9, Saul. There was a powerful man from Benjamin named Kish, who was the son of the Abiel, son of Zerah, son of the Bechoraz, son of Apiar, a Benjaminite. He had a son named Saul, who was a handsome young man. There was no other Israelite more handsome than Saul. He stood head and shoulder above the peoples, the roasted donkeys. Now the donkey of the Saul's father Kish had wandered off. Kish said to his son Saul, "Take one of the servants with you and go out and hunt for the donkeys." So they went through the hill country of the Ephraim and through the land of the Shalishash. Not finding them there, they continued through the land of the Shalim without success. They also went through the land of the Benjamin, but they failed to find the animals. When they came to the land of the Jews, Saul said to the servant who was with him, "Come, let us turn back, lest my father forget about the donkeys and become anxious about us." The servant replied, "Listen, there was a man of God in this city, a man held in high esteem. Everything he says comes true, so let us go there now. Perhaps he can advise us about the journey we have undertaken." But Saul said to his servant, "If we go, what can he offer the man? The food in our bag has run out. We have no present to give the man of the God. What else do we have?" Again the servant answered Saul, "I have a quarter shekel of the silver. If I give that to the man of the God, he will advise us about the journey." In the former time in Israel, anyone who went to consult God used to say, "Come, let us go to the seer," for the one who is now called the prophet was formerly called seer. Saul then said to his servant, "You are right, come on, let us go." So they headed toward the city where the man of the God lived, meeting the young woman. As they were going up the path to the city, they met some young woman coming out to draw water, and they asked them, "Is the seer in town?" The young woman answered, "Yes, dear, straight ahead, hurry now. Just today he came to the city because the people have a sacrifice today on the high place. When you enter the city, you may reach him before he goes up to the high place to eat. The people will not eat until he arrives. Only after he blesses the sacrifice will the invited guest eat. Go up immediately, for you should find him right now." Saul meets Samuel. So they went up to the city. As they entered it, there was Samuel coming toward them on his way to the high place. The day before Saul's arrival, the Lord had revealed to the Samuels, "At this time tomorrow I will send you a man from the land of the Benjamin, whom you are to anoint as ruler of my people Israel. He shall save my people from the hand of the Philistines. I have looked upon my people, their cry has come to me." When Samuel caught sight of the Saul, the Lord assured him, "This is the man I told you about. He shall govern my peoples." Saul met Samuel in the gateway and said, "Please tell me where the seer lives." Samuel answered Saul, "I am the seer. Go up ahead of me to high place and eat with me today. In the morning, before letting you go, I'll tell you everything on your mind. As for your donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, do not worry about them, for they have been found. Whom should Israel want, if not you and your father's families?" Saul replied, "Am I not a Benjaminite from the smallest of the tribe of the Israel? And is not my clan the least among the clan of the tribe of the Benjamin? Why say such things to me?" The mirror. Samuel then took Saul and his servant and brought them into the room. He seated them at the head of the guests, of whom there were about 30. He said to the cook, "Bring the portion I gave you and told you to put aside." So the cook took up the leg and what went with it and placed it before Saul. Samuel said, "This is the reserved portion that is set before you. For it was kept for you until this time." I explained that I was inviting some guests. Thus Saul dined with Samuel that day. When they came down from the high place into the city, a mattress was spread for Saul on the roof, and he slept there. At daybreak, Samuel called Saul on the roof, "Get up, and I will send you on your way." Saul got up, and he and Samuel went outside the city together. Saul's anointing. As they were approaching the edge of the town, Samuel said to Saul, "Tell the servant to go on ahead of us, but you stay here for a moment, that I may give you a word from God." 1 Samuel chapter 10. Then from a flask he had with him, Samuel poured oil on Saul's head. He also kissed him, saying, "The Lord anoint you, command over the heritage. You are to govern the Lord people Israel and to save them from the grasp of their enemies round about. This will be a sign for you that the Lord has anointed you commander over his heritages." The sign, the foretold. When you leave me today, you will meet 2 men near Rachel's tomb at the Zelzah in the territory of the Benjamin. They will say to you, "The donkeys you went to look for have been found." Now your father is no longer worried about the donkeys, but is anxious about you and says, "What shall I do about my son?" Farther on, when you arrive at the Ark of the Tabor, 3 men will meet you as they go up to the gate of the Bethels. One will be bring 3 young goats, another 3 loaves of the bread, and the third a skin of the wine. They will greet you and offer you to elevate the offering of the bread, which you should accept from them. After that, you will come to Gibeah Elohim, where the Philistine garrison is located. As you enter that city, you will meet the band of the prophet coming down from the high place. They will be preceded by litters, tambourines, flute, and harps, and will be in prophetic ecstasy. The Spirit of the Lord will rush upon you, and you will join them in their prophetic actors and will become a changed man. When these signs have come to pass, do whatever rises to hand, because God is with you. Now go down ahead of me to Gilgal, for I shall come down to you to offer burnt offering and to sacrifice a communion offering. Wait 7 days until I come to you. I shall then tell you what you must do. The signs come to pass. As Saul turned to leave Samuel, God changed his heart. The very day all these signs came to pass. From there they arrived at the Gibeah, where a band of the prophet met Saul, and the Spirit of the God rushed upon him, so that he joined them in their prophetic ecstasy. When all who had known him previously saw him in the prophetic state among the prophets, they said to one another, "What has happened to son of the Kishi? Is Saul also among the prophets?" And someone from that district responded, "And who is their father?" Thus the saying arose, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" When he came out of the prophetic accuracy, he went home. Silence about the kingships. Saul's uncle asked him and his servant, "Where have you been?" Saul replied, "Looking for the donkeys. When he could not find them, he went to Samuel." Saul's uncle said, "Tell me then what Samuel said to you." Saul said to his uncle, "He assured us that the donkeys have been found." But Saul told him nothing about what Samuel had said about the kingship. Saul chosen king. Samuel called the people together to the Lord at Mizpah and addressed the Israelites. "Thus said the Lord God of Israel, It was I who brought Israel up from Egypt and delivered you from the power of the Egyptian and from the power of the old kingdom that oppressed you. But today you have rejected your God, you save you from all your evil and calamities, by saying, 'No, you must appoint a king over us.' Now therefore take your stand before the Lord according to your tribes and families." So Samuel had all the tribe of the Israel come forward, and the tribe of the Benjamin was chosen. Next, he had the tribe of the Benjamin come forward by clans, and the clan of the Matri was chosen. And finally, Saul the son of Kish was chosen. But when they went to look for him, he was nowhere to be found. Again, they consulted the Lord, "Is there still someone else to come forward?" The Lord answered, "He is hiding among the baggage." They ran to bring him from there. When he took his place among the people, he stood head and shoulder above all the peoples. Then Samuel addressed all the people, "Do you see the man whom the Lord has chosen? There is no one like him among all the people." Then all the people shouted out, "Long live the king." Samuel next explained to the people the rule of the monarchy, wrote them in a book, and placed them before the presence of the Lord. Samuel then sent the people back to their own home. Saul also went home to the Gibeah, accompanied by warriors whose heart the Lord had touched. But some worthless people said, "How can this fellow save us?" They despised him and brought him no tribute. 1 Samuel chapter 11, defeat of the Ammonites. About a month later, Nahash the Ammonite went up and besieged Jabesh Gilead. All the people of the Jabesh begged Nahash, "Make a treaty with us and we will serve you." But Nahash the Ammonite replied, "This is my condition for making treaty with you. I will gouge out the right eye of every man, and thus bring shame on all Israel." The elder of the Jabesh said to him, "Give us 7 days to send messengers throughout the territory of the Israel. If there is no one to save us, we will surrender to you." When the messenger arrived at the Gibeah of the south and reported the news in the people's hearing, they all wept aloud. Just then Saul came in from the field behind his oxen. "Why are the people weeping?" he asked. They repeated the message of the inhabitant of the Jabesh for him. As he listened to the report, the spirit of the God rushed upon him, and he became very angry. When Saul revealed them in Bezek, there was the 300,000 Israelites and 70,000 Judahites. Taking a yoke of oxen, he cut them into pieces and sent them throughout the territory of the Israel by messengers, saying, "If anyone does not come out and follow Saul and Samuel, the same thing will be done to his oxen." The dread of the Lord came upon the people, and they went forth as one. To the messenger who had come, he said, "Tell the inhabitant of the Jabesh Gilead that tomorrow, when the sun grows hot, they will be saved." The messenger went and reported this to the inhabitant of the Jabesh, and they rejoiced. The man of the Jabesh said to Nahash, "Tomorrow we'll surrender to you, and you may do with us whatever you want." The next day, Saul arranged his troops in the 3 companies and invaded the camp during the dawn watch. They slaughtered the Ammonites until the day had gotten hot. By then, the survivors were so scattered that no 2 of them were left together. Saul accepted as king. The people then said to Samuel, who questioned whether Saul should rule over us, "Hand them over and we will put them to death." But Saul objected, No one will be put to death this day, for today the Lord has rescued Israel. Samuel said to people, "Come, let us go to Gilgal to renew the kingship there." So all the people went to Gilgal, and there they made Saul king in the Lord's presence. They also sacrificed a communion offering there before the Lord, and Saul and all the Israelites rejoiced greatly. 1 Samuel chapter 12, Samuel integrity. Samuel addressed all Israel, "I have granted your request in every respect." He said, "I have set a king over you. And now the king will lead you. As for me, I am old and gray, and my sons are among you. I was a leader from my youth to the present day. Here I stand, answer me in the presence of the Lord, and the Lord anointed one. Whose ox have I taken? Whose donkey have I taken? Whom have I cheated? Whom have I wronged? From whom have I accepted a bribe and shut my eyes because of it? I'll make a restitution to you." They replied, "You have neither cheated us, nor oppressed us, nor accepted anything from anyone." So he said to them, "The Lord is witness against you this day, and the Lord anointed is witness, that you have found nothing in my possession." "The Lord is witness," they said. Samuel admonishes the people. Samuel continued, "The Lord is witness, who appointed Moses and Aaron and brought your ancestors up from the land of Egypt. Now take your stand, that I may judge you in the presence of the Lord according to all gracious act that the Lord has done for you and your ancestors." When Jacob and his son went to Egypt and the Egyptians oppressed them, your ancestors cried out to the Lord. The Lord then sent Moses and Aaron to bring them out of Egypt and settled them in this place. But they forgot the Lord their God, and so the Lord sold them into the power of the Sisera, the captain of the army of the Hazor, the power of the Philistines, and the power of the king of the Moab, who made war against them. They cried out to the Lord and said, "We have sinned because he abandoned the Lord and served the Baals and the Ashtaroth. Now deliver us from the power of our enemies, and we will serve you." The Lord sent Jerubbaal, Barak, Jephthah, and Samuel. He delivered you from the power of your enemies on every side, so that you could live in security. Yet when you saw Nahash, king of the Ammonites, advancing against you, you said to me, "No, a king must rule us, even though the Lord your God is your king." Warning for people and kings. Now here is the king you chose. See, the Lord has given you a king. If you fear and serve the Lord, if you listen to the voice of the Lord and do not rebel against the Lord's command, if both you and the king who rules over you follow the Lord your God, well and good. But if you do not listen to the voice of the Lord, and if you rebel against the Lord's command, the hand of the Lord will be against you and your kings. Now then stand ready to witness the great marvel the Lord is about to accomplish before your eyes. Are we not in the harvest time for wheat? Yet I will call upon the Lord, and he will stand the thunder and the rain. Thus you will see and understand how great an evil it is in the eyes of the Lord that you have asked for a king. Samuel called upon the Lord, and the Lord sent the thunder and the rain that day. Then all the people feared the Lord and Samuel. Assistance promised. They said to Samuel, "Pray to the Lord you God for us, your servant, that we may not die for having added to all our other sins the evil for asking for a king." "Do not fear," Samuel answered them. "You have indeed committed all this evil, yet do not turn from the Lord, but serve him with your whole heart. Do not turn aside to God who are nothing, you who cannot act and deliver, they are nothings. For the sake of his own great name, the Lord will not abandon his people, since the Lord has decided to make you his people. As for me, far be it from me to sin against the Lord by ceasing to pray for you and to teach you the good and right way. But you must fear the Lord and serve him faithfully with all your heart, for you have seen the great things the Lord has done among you. If instead you continue to do evil, both you and your king shall be swept away." 1 Samuel chapter 13. Saul was years old when he became king, and he reigned 2 years over Israel. Saul offers sacrifice. Saul chose 3,000 of the Israel, of whom 2,000 remained with him in Michmash and in the hill country of the Bethels, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of the Benjamin. He sent the rest of the army back to their tent. Now Jonathan struck the Philistine garrison in Gibeah, and the Philistines got word of it. Then Saul sounded the horn throughout the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." Then all Israel heard the report that Saul has struck the garrison of the Philistines. Israel has become odious to the Philistines. Then the army was called up to the Saul in Gilgal. The Philistines also assembled for the battle against Israel with 30,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and foot soldiers as numerous as the sand on the seashore. They came up and encamped in the Michmash, east of the Beth Aven. When the soldiers saw they were in danger because the army was hard pressed, they hid themselves in caves, thickets, rocks, caverns, and cisterns. Others Hebrews crossed the Jordan into the land of the Gad and the Gilead. Saul, however, held out in the Gilgal, all his army trembling in fear behind him. He waited 7 days until the appointed time Samuel had set, but Samuel did not come, and the army deserted Saul. He then said, "Bring me the burnt offering and the communion offering." Then he sacrificed the burnt offerings. King Saul reproved. As he finished the sacrificing the burnt offering, there came Samuel. So Saul went out toward him in order to greet him. Samuel asking, "What have you done?" Saul explained, "When I saw the army was deserting me and you did not come on the appointed day, and the Philistines were assembled at the Michmash, I said to myself, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not yet sought the Lord's blessing, so I thought I should sacrifice the burnt offering." Samuel replied to Saul, "You have acted foolishly. Had you kept the command the Lord your God gave you, the Lord would now establish your kingship in Israel forever. But now your kingship shall not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart to appoint as ruler over his people, because you did not observe what the Lord commanded you." Philistine invasions. The Samuel set out from the Gilgal and went his own way, but what was left of the army went out after Saul to meet the soldiers. Going from Gilgal to Gibeah of the Benjamin, Saul then counted the soldiers he had with him, about 600. Saul, his son Jonathan, and the soldiers they had with them were now occupying Gibeah of the Benjamin, and the Philistines were encamped at the Michmash. Meanwhile, raiders left the camp of the Philistines in 3 bands. One band took the Ophrah road toward the district of the Shuars. Another turned in the direction of the Beth Horon, and the third took the road of the Gibeah that overlooks the valley of the Hanas toward the desert. Disarmament of Israel. Not a single smith was to be found anywhere in Israel, for the Philistines had said, otherwise the Hebrews will make a sword or spears. All Israel therefore had to go down to the Philistines to sharpen their plowshares, make axes, and sickles. The price for the plowshares and the mattocks was 2/3 of the shekel, and 1/3 of the shekel for the sharpening the axe and for the setting of the ox goads. And so on the day of the battle, neither sword nor spear could be found in the hand of any of the soldiers with Saul or Jonathan. Only Saul and his son Jonathan had them. Jonathan's exploit. An outpost of the Philistines had pushed forward to the pass of the Michmash. 1 Samuel chapter 14. One day Jonathan, son of Saul, said to his armor-bearer, "Come, let us go over to the Philistine outpost on the other side." But he did not inform his father. Saul was sitting under the pomegranate tree in the Migron on the outskirts of the Gibeah. With him were about 600 men. Isaiah, son of the Ahitub, brother of the Ichabod, the son of the Phinehas, son of Eli, the priest of the Lord at Shiloh, was wearing the ephod, nor did the soldier know that Jonathan had gone. Flanking the ravine to which Jonathan intended to cross to the Philistine outpost were lucky cracks on each side, one named Bozez and the other Sener. One crack was to the north toward the Michmash, the other to the south toward the Gibeah. Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, "Come, let us go over to the outpost of the uncircumcised. Perhaps the Lord will help us, because it is no more difficult for the Lord to grant victory by means of the few than it is by means of the many." His armor-bearer replied, "Do whatever you think best. I am with you in whatever you decide." Jonathan continued, "When he crosses over those men, we will be visible to them. If they say to us, 'Stay there until we can come to you,' we will stop where we are. We will not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come up to us,' we will go up, because the Lord has delivered them into our hand. That will be our sign." When 2 of them came into the view of the Philistine outpost, the Philistine remarked, "Look, some Hebrews are coming out of the holes where they have been hiding." The men of the outpost called Jonathan and his armor-bearer. "Come up here," they said, "and we will teach you a lesson." So Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, "Climb up after me, for the Lord has delivered them into the hand of the Israel." Jonathan trembled up with his armor-bearer behind him as the Philistine fell before Jonathan. His armor-bearer, who followed him, would finish them out. In this first attack, Jonathan and his armor-bearer killed about 20 men within half a furlong. Then terror spread through the camp and the countryside. All the soldiers in the outpost and in the raiding parties shuddered in terror. The earth shook with the awesome shudderings. Loud of the Philistine. Saul's sentinel in Gibeah of the Benjamin saw that the enemy camp had scattered and were running in all directions. Saul said to those around him, "Count the troops and found out if any of us are missing." When they had taken the count, they found Jonathan and his armor-bearer missing. Saul then said to Ahijah, "Bring the ephod here." Ahijah was wearing the ephod before the Israelites at that time. While Saul was speaking to the priest, the uproar in the Philistine camp kept increasing. So he said to the priest, "Withdraw your hand." And Saul and all his men rallied and rushed into the fight, where the Philistines, wholly confused, were thrusting swords at one another. The Hebrew who had previously sided with the Philistines and had gone up with them to their camp turned to join the Israelites under Saul and Jonathan. Likewise, all the Israelites who were hiding in the hill country of the Ephraim, hearing that the Philistines were fleeing, kept after them in the battle. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day. Saul us. The battle continued past Beth-Elvan. Even though the Israelites were exhausted that day, Saul rained on them, saying, "Cursed be the one who takes the food before evening, before I am able to avenge myself on my enemies." So none of the people tasted food. Now there was honeycomb lying on the ground, and when the soldier came to the comb, the honey was flowing. Yet no one raised a hand from it to his mouth, because the people feared the oath, violation of the oath. Jonathan, who had not heard that his father had put the people under oath, thrust out the end of the staff he was holding and dipped it into the honeycomb. Then he raised it to his mouth, and his eyes brightened. At this, one of the soldiers spoke, "Your father put the people under strict oath, saying, 'Cursed be the one who takes food today.' As a result, the people are weakened." Jonathan replied, "My father brings trouble to the land. Look how bright my eyes are, because I had this little taste of the honey." What is more, if the army had eaten freely of the enemy plunder when they came across it today, surely the slaughter of the Philistines would have been greater by now, consuming the blood. After the Philistines were routed that day from which marched to the Aijalon, the people were completely exhausted. So the army pounced upon the plunder and took sheep, oxen, and calves, slaughtering them on the ground and eating the meat with the blood in it. Informed that army was sinning against the Lord by eating the meat with blood in it, Saul said, "You have broken faith. Roll a right stone here for me." He continued to mingle with the people and tell each of them, "Bring an ox and a sheep to me, slaughter them here and then eat. But you must not sin against the Lord by eating meat with blood in it." So that night they all brought whatever oxen they had seized, and they slaughtered them there. And Saul built an altar to the Lord. This was the first time he built an altar to the Lord. Jonathan in danger of the death. Then Saul said, "Let us go down in the pursuit of the Philistines by night to plunder them until daybreak and leave no one alive." They replied, "Do what you think best." But the priest said, "Let us consult God." So Saul inquired of God, "Shall I go down in pursuit of the Philistines? Will you deliver them into the hand of the Israel?" But we received no answer on this occasion. All officials of the army, Saul announced, "Come forward to find out how this sin was committed today. As the Lord lives, who has given victory to the Israel, even if my son Jonathan has committed it, he shall surely die." But none of the people answered him. So he said to all Israel, stand on one side, and my son Jonathan and I will stand on the other. The people responded, do what you think best. And Saul said to the Lord, the God of Israel, why do you not answer your servant this time? If the blame for this reside in me or my son Jonathan, Lord God of Israel, respond with Urims. But if this guilt is in your people, Israel, respond with the Thumims. Jonathan and Saul were designated, and the people went free. Saul then said, cast the lot between me and my son Jonathan, and Jonathan was designated. Saul said to Jonathan, tell me what you have done. Jonathan replied, I only tasted a little honey from the end of the staff I was holding. Am I to die for this? Saul declared, my God, do this to me and more if you do not indeed die. Jonathan. Rescue of Jonathan. But soldiers protested, Saul, is Jonathan to die, the man who won this great victory for Israel? This must not be, as the Lord lives, not a single hair of his head shall fall to the ground. For God was with him in what he did today. Thus the soldier rescued Jonathan and he did not die. After that, Saul gave up the pursuit of the Philistines, who returned to their own territories. Saul's victories. After taking possession of the kingship over Israel, Saul waged war on his enemies all around. Moab, the Ammonite, Edom, the king of the Jobah, and the Philistine, wherever he turned, he was successful. And fought bravely, he defeated the Amalek and delivered Israel from the hand of those who were plundering them. Saul's family. The son of the Saul was Jonathan, Ishvi, and Melchisheba. The name of the firstborn daughter was Merab. The name of the younger was Michal. The name of the Saul's wife was Ahinoam, daughter of the Ahimaaz. The name of his general was Abner, son of Ner, Saul's uncles. Kish, Saul's father, and Ner, Abner's father, were sons of Abias. There was a heavy fighting with the Philistines during Saul's lifetime. Whenever Saul saw any strong or brave man, he took him into his service. 1 Samuel chapter 15. Disobedience of Saul. Samuel said to Saul, it was I, the Lord, sent to anoint you king over his people Israel. Now therefore listen to the message of the Lord. Thus says the Lord of the host, I will punish what Amalek did to the Israelites when he barred their ways as they came out from Egypt. Go now, attack Amalek and put under the ban everything he has. Do not spare him. Kill men and women, children and infants, oxen and sheep, camels and donkeys. Saul alerted the army and at Telaim revealed 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 men of the Judah. Saul went to the city of the Amalek and set up an ambush in the wadi. He warned the Kenite, leave Amalek, turn aside and come down, so I will not have to destroy you with them, for you were loyal to the Israelites when they came up from the Egypt after the Kenite left. Saul routed the Amalek from the Havilah to the approach of the shore on the frontier of the Egypt. He took Agag, king of the Amalek, alive, but the rest of the people he destroyed by the sword, putting them under the ban. He and his troops spared Agag and the best of the fat sheep and oxen and the lambs. They refused to put under the ban anything that was worthwhile, destroying only what was worthless and of no account. Samuel rebuked Saul. Then the word of the Lord came to Samuel, I regret having made Saul king, for he has turned from me and has not kept my command. At this Samuel grew angry and cried out to the Lord all night. Early in the morning he went to meet Saul, but was informed that Saul had gone to Carmel, where he set up the monument in his own honors, and that on his return he had gone down to the Gilgal. When Samuel came to him, Saul greeted him, "The Lord bless you, I have kept the command of the Lord." But Samuel asked, "What then is this bleating of the sheep that comes to my ears, the lowing of the oxen that I hear?" Saul replied, "They were brought from the Amalek. The people spared the best sheep and oxen to sacrifice to the Lord your God, but the rest we destroyed, putting them under the ban." Samuel said to Saul, "Stop, let me tell you what the Lord said to me last night." "Speak," he replied. Samuel then said, "Though little in your own eyes, are you not sheep of the tribe of the Israel? The Lord anointed you king of the Israel, and sent you on a mission, saying, Go and put the sinful Amalekites under ban of the destruction. Fight against them until you have exterminated them. Why then have you disobeyed the Lord? You have bounced on the spoil, thus doing what was evil in the Lord's sight." Saul explained to Samuel, I did indeed obey the Lord and fulfill the mission on which the Lord sent me. I have brought back Agag, the king of the Amalekites, and carrying out the ban, I have destroyed the Amalekites. But from the spoil the army took sheep and oxen, the best of what had been banned, to sacrifice to the Lord your God in Gilgal. But Samuel said, "Does the Lord delight in burnt offering and sacrifice as much as in obedience to the Lord's command? Obedience is better than sacrifice, to reason better than the fat of the lambs. For sin of the divination is rebellion, and arrogance the crime of the idolatries. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord in turn has rejected your asking." Rejection of Saul. Saul admitted to Samuel, "I have sinned, for I have transgressed the command of the Lord and your instruction. I feared the people and obeyed them. Now forgive my sin and return with me, that I may worship the Lord." But Samuel said to Saul, "I will not return with you, because you reject the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you as king of Israel." As Samuel turned to go, Saul seized the loose end of his garment, and it tore out. So Samuel said to him, "The Lord has torn the king of Israel from you this day, and has given it to the neighbor of yours, who is better than you. The glory of Israel neither deceives nor repents, for he is not a moral who repents." But Saul answered, "I have sinned, yet honor me now before the elder of my people and before Israel. Return with me, that I may worship the Lord your God." And so Samuel returned with him, and Saul worshipped the Lord. Samuel executes Agag. Afterwards, Samuel commanded, "Bring Agag, king of the Amalek, to me." Agag came to him, struggling and saying, "So it is bitter death." And Samuel said, "As your sword has made the woman childless, so shall your mother be childless among women." Then he cut Agag to pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. Samuel departed for Ramah, while Saul went up to his home in Gibeah of Saul. Never again as long as he lived did Samuel see Saul, yet he grieved over Saul, because the Lord repented that he had made him king of Israel. 1 Samuel chapter 16. The Lord said to Samuel, "How long will you grieve for Saul, whom I have rejected as king of Israel? Fill your horn with oil and be on your way. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem. For from among his sons I have decided on a king." But Samuel replied, "How can I go? Saul will hear of it and kill me." To this the Lord answered, "Take a heifer along and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I myself will tell you what to do. You are to anoint for me the one I point out to you. Samuel anointed David. Samuel did as the Lord had commanded him. When he entered Bethlehem, the elder of the city came trembling to meet him and asked, "Is your feast peaceful, O seer?" He replied, "Yes, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord, so purify yourselves and celebrate with me today." He also had Jesse and his son purify themselves and invited them to the sacrifice. As they came, he looked at the Eliab and thought, "Surely the anointed is here before the Lord." But the Lord said to Samuel, "Do not judge from his appearance or from his lofty statures. Because I have rejected him, God does not see as mortals. Who sees the appearance? The Lord looks into the heart." Then Jesse called Abinadab and presented him before Samuel, who said, "The Lord has not chosen him." Next, Jesse presented Shammah, but Samuel said, "The Lord has not chosen this one either." In the same way, Jesse presented the 7 sons before Samuel, but Samuel said to Jesse, "The Lord has not chosen anyone of these." Then Samuel asked Jesse, "Are these all the sons you have?" Jesse replied, "There is still the youngest, but he is tending the sheep." Samuel said to Jesse, "Send for him. We will not sit down to eat until he arrives here." Jesse had the young man brought to them. He was ruddy, a youth with beautiful eyes, and good looking. The Lord said, "Their anointing, for this is the one." Then Samuel, with the horn of the oil in hand, anointed him in the midst of the brothers. And from that day on, the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon David. Then Samuel set out for Ramah. David wins Saul's approval. The Spirit of the Lord had departed from the Saul, and he was tormented by an evil spirit from the Lord. So the servant of the Saul said to him, "Look, an evil spirit from the God is tormenting you. If your lordship will order it, your servant here attending to you, he look for the immense skill in playing the harp. When the evil spirit from the God comes upon you, he will play and you will feel better." Saul then told his servant, "Find me a good harpist and bring him to me." One of the servants spoke, "I have observed that another subject of Bethlehem is a skillful harpist. He is also a brave warrior and an able speaker and a handsome young man. The Lord is certainly with him." David made the armor bearer. Accordingly, Saul dispatched the messenger to ask Jesse to send him his son David, who was with the flock. Then Jesse took 5 loaves of the bread, a skin of the wine, and a young goat, and sent them to Saul with his son David. Thus David came to Saul and entered his service. Saul became very fond of him and made him his armor bearer. Saul sent Jesse the message, "Let David stay in my service, for he meets with my approval." Whenever the Spirit from God came upon Saul, David would take the harp and play, and Saul would be relieved and feel better, for evil spirit would leave him. 1 Samuel chapter 17, the challenge of the Goliath. The Philistines rallied their forces for battle at the Succoth in Judah and camped between Succoth and Azekah at the Ephes-Dammim. Saul and the Israelites rallied and camped in the valley of the Elah, drawing up their battle line to meet the Philistines. The Philistine was stationed on hill and the Israelites on an opposite hill with the valley between them. A champion named Goliath of the Gads came out from the Philistine camp. He was 6 cubits and span tall. He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a bronze breastplate of the scale armor, weighing 5,000 shekels. Bronze grips and had a bronze scimitar slung from his shoulders. The shaft of the javelin was like a weaver's beam, and its iron head weighed 600 shekels. His shield bearer went ahead of him. He stood and shouted to the rank of the Israel, "Why come out in better information? I am a Philistine, and you are Saul's servant. Choose one of your men and have him come down to me. If he beat me in combat and kills me, we will be your vassals. But if I beat him and kill him, you shall be our vassal and serve us." The Philistine continued, "I defy the rank of the Israel today. Give me a man and let us fight together." When Saul and all Israel heard this challenge of the Philistine, they were stunned and terrified. And David comes to the camp. David was son of the Ephrathite named Jesse from the Bethlehem in Judah, who had 8 sons. In the days of the Saul, Jesse was old and well on in years. The 3 oldest sons of the Jesse had followed Saul to war. The name of these 3 sons who had gone up to war were Eliab, the firstborn, Abinadab the second, and Shammah the third. David was the youngest, while the 3 oldest had joined Saul. David would come and go from Saul's presence to tend his father's sheep at Bethlehem. Meanwhile, the Philistine came forward and took his stand morning and evening for 40 days. Now Jesse said to his son David, "Take this alpha of the roasted grain and these 10 loaves for your brothers, and bring them quickly to your brothers in the camp. Also take these 10 trees for the field official. Greet your brother and bring home some token from them. Saul and your brothers, together with all Israel, are at war with the Philistines in the valley of the Elas." Early the next morning, having left the flock with the shepherd, David packed up the set out, and Jesse had commanded him. He reached the barricade of the camp just as the army, on the way to the battleground, were shouting their battle cry. The Israelites and the Philistines drew up opposite each other in the battle array. David entrusted what he had brought to the keeper of the baggage and hastened to the battle line, where he greeted his brothers. While he was talking with them, the Philistine champion by name Goliath of the Gath came up from the rank of the Philistine and spoke as before, and David listened. When Israelites saw the man, they all retreated before him, terrified. The Israelites had been saying, "Do you see this man coming up? He comes up to insult Israel. The king will make whoever kills him a very wealthy man. He will give his daughter to him and declare his father's family exempt from taxes in Israel." David now said to the man standing near him, "How will the man who killed this Philistine and frees Israel from disgrace be rewarded? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should insult the army of the living God?" They repeated the same words to him and said, "That is how the man who kills him will be rewarded." When Eliab, his oldest brother, heard him speaking with the man, he grew angry with David and said, "Why do you come down? With whom have you left those sheep in the wilderness? I know your arrogance and dishonest heart. You came down to enjoy the battles." David protested, "What have I done now? I was only talking." He turned from him to the another and asked the same question, and everyone gave him the same answer as before. The words that David had spoken were overheard and reported to Saul, who sent for them. David challenged Goliath. Then David spoke to Saul, My Lord should not lose heart. Let your servant go and fight this Philistine. But Saul answered David, You cannot go up against the Philistine and fight with him, for you are only a youth, while he was being warrior from his youth. Then David told Saul, Your servant used to tend his father's sheep, and whenever a lion or bear came to carry out the sheep from the flock, I would chase out the attack and snatch the prey for its mouth. If it attacked me, I would seize it by the throat, strike it, and kill it. Your servant has killed both a lion and a bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be as one of them, because he has insulted the army of the living God. David continued, The same Lord who delivered me from the claw of the lion and the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. Saul answered David, Go, the Lord will be with you. Preparation for the encounters. Then Saul dressed David in his own tunic, putting a bronze helmet on his head and arming him with a coat of the mail. David also fastened Saul's sword over the tunic. He walked with difficulty, however, since he had never worn armor before. He said to Saul, I cannot go in these because I am not used to them, so he took them out. Then staff in hand, David selected 5 smooth stones from the wadi and put them in the pocket of his shuffled bag. With his sling in hand, he approached the Philistines. David victorious. With his shield bearer marching before him, the Philistine advanced close and close to David. When he seized David up and saw that he was useful, rude, and handsome in appearance, he began to deride him. He said to David, Am I a dog that you come against me with a staff? Then the Philistine cursed David by his God, and said to him, Come here to me, and I feed your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. David answered him, You come against me with the sword and the spear and the scimitar, but I am come against you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the army of Israel, whom you have insulted. Today the Lord shall deliver you into my hand. I'll strike you down and cut off your head. This very day I'll feed your dead body and the dead body of the Philistine army to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. Thus the whole land shall learn that Israel has a God. All this multitude too shall learn that it is not by sword and spear that the Lord saves. For the battle belongs to the Lord, who shall deliver you into our hands. The Philistine then moved to meet David at close quarters, while David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. David put his hand into the bag and took out a stone, hurled it with the sling, and struck the Philistine on the forehead. The stone embedded itself in his brow, and he fell on his face to the ground. Thus David trounced over the Philistine with the sling and the stone. He struck the Philistine dead, and did it without a sword in his hand. Then David ran and stood over him with the Philistine's own sword, which he drew from its sheath. He killed him and cut off his head. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they fled. Fight of the Philistines. Then the men of Israel and Judah sprang up with the battle cry and pursued them to the approach of the Gath and to the gate of the Ekron. And the Philistines fell wounded along the road from the Sha'araim as far as Gath and the Ekron. When they returned from the pursuit of the Philistines, the Israelites looted their camp. David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he kept Goliath's armor in his own tent. David presented to Saul. As Saul watched David go out to meet the Philistine, he asked his general Abner, "Abner, whose son is that young man?" Abner replied, "On your life, O king, I have no ideas." And the king said, "Find out whose son the lad is." So when David returned from slaying the Philistine, Abner escorted him into Saul's presence. David was still holding the Philistine head. Saul then asked him, "Whose son are you, young man?" David replied, "I am the son of your servant, the Jesse of the Bethlehem." 1 Samuel chapter 18. David of the Jonathan. By the time David finished speaking with Saul, Jonathan's life became bound up with David's life. He loved him as his very self. Saul retained David on that day and did not allow him to return to his father's house. Jonathan and David made a covenant because Jonathan loved him as his very self. Jonathan took off the cloak he was wearing and handed it over to David, along with his military dress, even his sword, bow, and belt. David then carried out successfully every mission on which Saul sent him, so Saul put him in charge of his soldiers. This met with the approval of the whole army, even Saul's officials. Saul's jealousy. At the approach of Saul and David, on David's return after striking down the Philistine, women came out from all the city of Israel to meet Saul the king, singing and dancing with tambourines, joyful songs, and string instruments. Women played and sang. Saul had slain his thousand, David his tens of thousands. Saul was very angry and resentful of the song, for he thought, "They gave David tens of thousands, but only thousands to me. All that remains for him is the kingship." From that day on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. The next day, an evil spirit from the God rushed upon Saul, and he raged in his house. David was in attendance, playing the harp as at other times, while Saul was holding his spears. Saul poised the spear, thinking, "I will nail David to the wall," but twice David escaped him. Saul then began to fear David because the Lord was with him, but had turned away from Saul. Saul sent him out of his presence and appointed him a field official, so David led people on their military expeditions and prospered in all his ways, for the Lord was with him. Seeing how he prospered, Saul feared David. But all Israel and Judah loved David, since he led them on their expeditions. Saul plotted against David. Saul said to David, "Look, I will give you my older daughter, Merab, in marriage if you become my warrior and fight the battle of the Lord." Saul thought, "I will not lay a hand on him, let the hand of the Philistine strike him." But David answered Saul, "Who am I, and who are my kindred and my father clan in Israel, that I should become the king's son-in-law?" But when the time came for Saul's daughter Merab to be given to David, she was given as wife to the Adriel the Meholatite instead. Now Saul's daughter Michal loved David. When this was reported to Saul, he was pleased. He thought, "I will offer her to him as a trap, so that the hand of the Philistine may strike him." So for the second time Saul said to David, "You shall become my son-in-law today." Saul then ordered his servant, "Speak to David privately and say, 'The king favors you and all his officials love you. You should become son-in-law to the kings.'" But when Saul's servant mentioned this to David, he said, "Is becoming the king's son-in-law a trivial matter in your eyes? I am poor and insignificant." When his servant reported David's answer to him, Saul commanded them, "Say this to David, the king desired no other prize for the bride than the foreskin of the 100 Philistines, that he may thus take vengeance on his enemies. Saul intended to have David fall into the hands of the Philistines. When the servant reported this offer to David, he was pleased with the prospect of becoming the king's son-in-law before the year was up. David arose and went with his men and slew 200 Philistines. He brought back their foreskin and counted them out before the king, that he might become the king's son-in-law. So Saul gave him his daughter Michal as wife. Then Saul realized the Lord was with David and that his own daughter Michal loved David. So Saul feared David all the more and was his enemy ever after. The Philistine chief continued to make forays, but each time they took the field. David was more successful against them than any of Saul's other officials, and his name was held in great esteem. 1 Samuel chapter 19, Persecution of David. Saul discussed his intention to kill David with his son Jonathan and with all his servants, but Saul's son Jonathan, who was very fond of David, told him, "My father Saul is trying to kill you, therefore please be on your guard tomorrow morning, stay out of sight and remain in hiding. I, however, will go out and stand beside my father in the countryside where you are, and will speak to him about you. If I learn anything, I'll let you know." Jonathan then spoke well of David to his father Saul, telling him, "The king should not harm his servant David. He has not harmed you, but has helped you very much by his deeds." When he took his life in his hand and killed the Philistine, and the Lord won a great victory for all Israel, you are glad to see it. Why then should you become guilty of the shedding innocent blood by killing David without cause? Saul heeded Jonathan's plea and swore, "As the Lord lives, he shall not be killed." So Jonathan summoned David and repeated the whole conversation to him. He then brought David to Saul, and David served him as before. David escaped from Saul. When war broke out again, David went out to fight against the Philistines and inflicted such a great defeat upon them that they fled from him. Then the evil spirit from the Lord came upon Saul as he was sitting in his house with a spear in hand, while David was playing the harp nearby. Saul tried to pin David to the wall with the spear, but David eluded Saul, and the spear struck only the wall while David got away safely. The same night, Saul sent a messenger to the David house to the Gad, planning to kill him in the morning. David's wife Michal informed him, "Unless you run for your life tonight, tomorrow you will be killed." Then Michal let David down through a window, and he made his escape in safety. Michal took the teraphim and laid in the bed, putting a tangle of the goat of the hair at its head and covering it with a blanket. When Saul sent the officer to arrest David, she said he is sick. Saul, however, sent the officer back to see David and commanded them, "Bring him up to me in his bed, that I may kill him." But when the messenger entered, they found the teraphim in the bed with the tangle of the goat hair at its head. Saul asked Michal, "Why did you lie to me like this? You have helped my enemy to get away." Michal explained to Saul, "He threatened me, saying, 'Let me go or I'll kill you.'" David and Saul in Ramah. When David got safely away, he went to the Samuel in Ramah, informing him of all that Saul had done to him. Then he and Samuel went to stay in Naos. When Saul was told that David was at Naos in Ramah, He sent officials to arrest David, but when they saw the band of the prophet presided over by Samuel in the prophetic state, the Spirit of God came upon them, and they too fell into the prophetic ecstasies. Informed of this, Saul sent other messengers who also fell into the prophetic ecstasy. For the third time, Saul sent messengers, but they too fell into a prophetic ecstasy. Saul among the prophets. Finally, Saul went to the Ramah himself, arriving at the Raji's cistern in Succoth. He asked, "Where are Samuel and David?" Someone answered, "At Naioth in Ramah." As he walked from there to the Naioth in the Ramah, the Spirit of God came upon him also, and he continued on, acting like a prophet until he reached the Naioth in Ramah. Then he too stripped himself of his garment and remained in the prophetic state in the presence of the Samuel. All that day and night he lay naked. That is why they say, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" 1 Samuel chapter 20. David consulted with Jonathan. David fled from the Naioth in Ramah and went to the Jonathan. "What have I done?" he asked him. "What crime or what offense does your father hold against me that he seek my life?" Jonathan answered him, "Heaven forbid that you should die. My father does nothing, great or small, without telling me. Why then should my father conceal this from me? It cannot be true." But David replied, "Your father is well aware that I am favored with your friendship, so he has decided. Jonathan must not know about this or he will be grieved. Nevertheless, as the Lord lives and as you live, there is only a step between me and death." Jonathan then said to David, "I'll do whatever you say." David answered, "Tomorrow is the new moon, when I should in fact dine with the king. Let me go and hide in the open country until evening. If it turns out that your father misses me, say, David orders me to let him go on short notice to his city Bethlehem, because his whole clan is holding its seasonal sacrifice there. If he says, 'Very well, your servant is safe,' but if he becomes quite angry, you can be sure he has planned some harm. Do this kindness for your servant because of the Lord's covenant into which you brought us. If I am guilty, kill me yourself. Why should you give me up to your father?" But Jonathan answered, "Not if ever I find out that my father is determined to harm you, I'll certainly let you go." David then asked Jonathan, "Who will tell me if your father gives you a harsh answer?" Mutual agreement. Jonathan replied to David, "Come, let us go out into the field." When they were out in the open country together, Jonathan said to David, "As the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, I'll sound out my father about this time tomorrow. Whether he is well disposed toward David or not, I will inform you. Should it please my father to bring any harm upon you, may the Lord do thus to Jonathan and more, if I do not inform you of it and send you on your way in peace. May the Lord be with you even as he was with my fathers. Only this, if I am still alive, may you show me the kindness of the Lord, but if I die, never cut off your kindness from my house." And when the Lord cut off all the enemies of the David from the face of the land, the name of the Jonathan must never be cut off from the family of the David, or the Lord will make you answer for it. And in his love for David, Jonathan renewed his oath to him, because he loved him as he loved himself. Jonathan then said to him, "Tomorrow is the new moon. You will be missed, since your place will be vacant. On the third day you will be missed all the more. Go to the spot where you hid on the other occasion and wait near the mound there. On the third day of the month I will shoot arrows to the side of it as though aiming at a target. I then send my attendant to recover the arrows. If in fact I say to him, look, the arrow is the side of you, pick it up, come, for you are safe as the Lord lives, there will be nothing to fear. But if I say to the boy, look, the arrow is beyond you, go, for the Lord send you away. However, in the matter which you and I have discussed, the Lord shall be between you and me forever. So David hid in the open country on the day of the new moon when the king sat down at the feast to dine. David's absence. He took his usual place against the wall. Jonathan sat facing him, while Abner sat at the king's side. David's place was vacant. Saul, however, said nothing that day, for he thought he must have become unclean by accident. On the next day, the second day of the month, David's place was still vacant. So Saul asked his son Jonathan, why has the son of Jesse not come to table yesterday or today? Jonathan explained to Saul, David pleaded with me to let him go to the Bethlehem. Please let me go, he begged, for you are having a clan sacrifice in our city, and my brother insists on my presence. Now then, if you think well of me, give me leave to visit my brothers. That is why he has not come to king's table. But Saul grew angry with Jonathan and said to him, son of the rebellious woman, do I not know that to your own disgrace and to the disgrace of your mother's nakedness you are companion of the Jesse's sons? For as long as the son Jesse lives upon the earth, you cannot make good your claim to the kingship. Now send for him and bring him to me, for he must die. But Jonathan argued with his father Saul, why should he die? What has he done? At this, Saul brandished his spear to strike him, and thus Jonathan learned that his father was determined to kill David. Jonathan sprang up from the table in a rage and ate nothing that second day of the month, because he was grieved on David's account, and because his father had humiliated him. Jonathan farewelled. The next morning, Jonathan, accompanied by a young boy, went out into the field for his appointment with David. There he said to the boy, run and find the arrows, and as the boy ran, he shot an arrow past him. When the boy made for the spot where Jonathan had shot the arrow, Jonathan called out to him, arrow is farther on. Again he called to the boy, hurry, be quick, don't delay. Jonathan boy picked up the arrow and brought it to his master. The boy suspected nothing, only Jonathan and David knew what was meant. Then Jonathan gave his weapon to his boy and said to him, go take them to the city. When the boy had gone, David rose from beside the mound and fell on his face to the ground 3 times in homage. They kissed each other and wept aloud together. At the ranks, Jonathan said to David, go in peace, in keeping with that 2 of us have sworn by the name of the Lord. The Lord shall be between you and me, and between your offspring and mine forever. 1 Samuel chapter 21. Then David departed on his way, while Jonathan went back into the city. The holy bread. David went to Elimelech, the priest of the Nab, who came trembling to meet him. He asked, why are you alone? Is there no one with you? David answered the priest, the king gave me a commission and told me, do not let anyone know anything about the business on which I have sent you or commission I have given you. For that reason, I have arranged a particular meeting place with my men. Now what do you have on hand? Give me 5 loaves or whatever you can find. But the priest replied to David, I have no ordinary bread on hand, only holy bread. If the men have abstained from woman, you may eat some of that. David answered the priest, We have indeed stayed away from women in the past whenever I went out on the campaign. All the young men were consecrated even for ordinary campaign. All the more so are they consecrated with their weapons today. So the priest gave him holy bread, for no other bread was on hand except the showbread which had been removed from before the Lord, and replaced my fresh bread when it was taken away. One of Saul's servants was there that day detained before the Lord. His name was Doeg the Edomite, the chief of the Saul shepherds, the sword of the Goliath. David then asked Ahimelech, Do you have a spear or a sword on hand? I brought along neither my sword nor my weapons, because the king's business was urgent. The priest replied, The sword of the Goliath the Philistine, whom you killed in the valley of the Elah, is here wrapped in a garment behind an ephod. If you wish to take it, do so. There is no sword here except that one. There is none like it. David cried, Give it to me. David, a fugitive. That same day, David fled from Saul, going to Achish, king of the Gath. But the servant of the Achish said to him, Is this not David, the king of the land? Is it not for him that during the dance they sing out, Saul has slain his 1,000, David his 10 of the 1,000? David took note of this remark and became very much afraid of Achish, king of Gath. So he feigned insanity in front of them and acted like a madman in their custody, drumming on the door of the gate and drooling onto his beard. Finally, Achish said to his servant, You see the man is mad. Why do you bring him to me? Do I not have enough madmen? Then you bring this one to rant in my presence? Should this fellow come into my house? 1 Samuel chapter 22. David left the Gath and escaped to the cave of the Adullam. When his brother and the rest of his family heard about it, they came down to him there. He was joined by all those in difficulty or in debt or embittered and became their leader. About 400 men were with him. From there, David went to the Mizpah of the Moab and said to king of the Moab, Let my father and mother stay with you until I learn what God will do for me. He left them with the king of the Moab. They stayed with him as long as David remained in the stronghold. But God the prophet said to David, Do not remain in the stronghold, leave, go to the land of the Judah. And so David left and went to the forest of the Heres. Doeg betrays Ahimelech. Now Saul heard that David and his men had been located. At that time he was sitting in the Gibeah on the tamarisk tree on the high place, holding his spear while all his servants stood by him. So he said to them, Listen, men of the Benjamin, when the son of Jesse give all of your fields and the vineyards, will we appoint any of you an official over the 1,000 or 100 men? He said, Why you have all conspired against me? Why no one told me that my son had made pact with the son of Jesse? None of you has shown compassion for me by revealing to me that my son has incited my servant to ambush me, as is the case today. Then Doeg the Edomite, who was standing with Saul's officials, spoke, I saw the son of Jesse come to Ahimelech, son of Ahitub in Nab. He consulted the Lord for him, furnished him with provision, and gave him the sword of the Goliath the Philistine, slaughter of the priest. So the king summoned the Ahimelech, the priest, the son of the Ahitub, and all his family, the priest in Nob. They all came to the king. Listen, son of the Ahitub, Saul declared. Yes, my lord, he replied. Saul questioned him, why have you conspired against me with the son of Jesse by giving him food and sword and by consulting God for him, that he might rise up against me in ambush, as is the case today? Ahimelech answered the king, who among all your servants is as loyal as David, the king's son-in-law, captain of your bodyguard, and honored in your own house? In this the first time I have consulted God for him. No, indeed, let not the king accuse his servant or anyone in the family of such things. Your servant knows nothing at all, great or small, about the whole matter. But the king said, you shall certainly die, Ahimelech, with all your families. The king then commanded his guard standing by him, turn and kill the priest of the Lord, for they gave David a hand. They knew he was a fugitive and yet failed to inform me, but the king's servant refused to raise a hand to strike the priest of the Lord. The king therefore commanded Doeg, you turn and kill the priest. So Doeg the Edomite himself turned and killed the priest that day. 85 who wore the linen ephod. Saul also put the priestly city of the Nob to the sword, including men and women, children and infants, and oxen, donkeys, and sheep. Abiathar escapes. One son of the Ahimelech, son of the Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled to David. When Abiathar told David that Saul had slain the priest of the Lord, David said to him, I knew that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would certainly tell Saul, I am responsible for the slaughter of all your families. Stay with me, do not be afraid. Whoever seeks your life must seek my life also. You are under my protection. 1 Samuel chapter 23. Keilah liberated. David was informed that the Philistines were attacking Keilah and plundering the threshing floors. So he consulted the Lord, asking, shall I go and attack these Philistines? The Lord answered, go attack them and free Gilead. But David said to him, even in Judah we have a reason to fear. How much more so if we go to Keilah against the forces of the Philistines? Again David consulted the Lord, who answered, go down to the Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into your power. So David went with his men and Keilah and fought against the Philistines. So David went with his men to Keilah and fought against the Philistines. He drove out the cattle and inflicted a severe defeat on them, and freed the inhabitants of the Keilah. Abiathar, son of the Ahimelech, who had fled to the David, went down with David to the Keilah, taking the ephod with him, fled from Keilah. When Saul was told that David had entered the Keilah, he thought, God has put him in my hand, for he has boxed himself in by entering a city with gate and bars. Saul then called all the army to war in order to go down to the Keilah and besiege David and his men. When David found out that Saul was planning to harm him, he said to priest Abiathar, bring the ephod here. Lord God of Israel, David prayed, your servant has heard that Saul plans to come to Keilah to destroy the city on my account. Will they hand me over? Will Saul come down as your servant has heard? Lord God of Israel, tell your servant. The Lord answered, he will come down. David then asked, will the citizens of the Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of the Saul? The Lord answered, they will deliver you. So David and his men, about 600 in number, left Keilah and wandered from the place to place. When Saul was informed that David had fled from the Keilah, he did not go forth. David and Jonathan in Horesh. David now lived in the strongholds in the wilderness or in the barren hill country near Ziph. Though Saul sought him continually, the Lord did not deliver David into his hand. While David was in the wilderness of the Ziph at the Horesh, he was afraid that Saul had come out to seek his life. Then Saul's son Jonathan came down to David at Horesh and encouraged him in the Lord. He said to him, "Have no fear, my father Saul shall raise his hand to you. You shall be king of Israel, and I shall be second to you. Even my father Saul knows this." The two of them made a covenant before the Lord in Horesh, where David remained, while Jonathan returned to his home. Treachery of Ziphites. Some of the Ziphites went up to the Saul in the Gibeah and said, "David is hiding among us in the stronghold at Horesh on the hill of the Hachilah, south of the Jeshimon." Therefore, whenever the king wished to come down, let him do so. It will be our task to deliver him into the king's hand. Saul replied, "The Lord bless you for your compassion toward me. Go now and make sure once more. Take note of the place where he set foot, for I am told that he is very cunning. Look around and learn in which of all the various hiding places he is holding out. Then come back to me with reliable information, and I'll go with you. If he is in the region, I'll track him down out of all the family of the Judah." So they went out the Ziph ahead of the Saul. At this time, David and his men were in the wilderness below Maon, in the Arabah, south of the westland. Escape from Saul. When Saul and his men came looking for him, David got word of it and went down to the gorge in the wilderness below Maon. Saul heard of this and pursued David into the wilderness below Maon. As Saul moved along one side of the gorge, David and his men took to the other. David was anxious to escape Saul, while Saul and his men were trying to outflank David and his men in order to capture them. Then a messenger came to Saul saying, "Come quickly, because the Philistines have invaded the land." Saul interrupted his pursuit of David and went to meet the Philistines. This is how that place came to call the Rock of the Division. 1 Samuel chapter 24. David spared Saul. David then went out from there and stayed in the stronghold of the En-Gedi. When Saul returned from the pursuit of the Philistines, he was told that David was in the desert near En-Gedi. So Saul took 3,000 of the best men from all Israel and went in the search of David and his men in the direction of the wild goat cracks. When he came to the sheepfolds along the way, he found a cave which he entered to relieve himself. David and his men were occupying the inmost recesses of the cave. David's servant said to him, "This is the day about which the Lord said to you, I will deliver your enemy into your hand. Do with him as you see fit." So David moved up and stealthily cut off an end of Saul's robe. Afterward, however, David regretted that he had cut off an end of Saul's robe. He said to his men, "The Lord forbid that I should do such a thing to my master, the Lord anointed, to lay a hand on him, for he is the Lord anointed." With these words, David restrained his men and would not permit them to attack Saul. Saul then left the cave and went on his way. David also stepped out of the cave, calling to Saul, "My lord the king." When Saul looked back, David bowed his face to the ground in homage. and asked Saul, "Why do you listen to those who say David is trying to harm you? You see for yourself today that the Lord just now delivered you into my hand in the cave. I was told to kill you, but I took pity on you instead. I decided that I'll not raise a hand against my master, for he is the Lord's anointed. Look here, my father, see the end of your robe which I hold. I cut off an end of your robe and did not kill you. Now see and be convinced that I plan no harm and no rebellions. I've done you no wrong, though you are hunting me down to take my life. May the Lord judge between me and you. May the Lord exact justice from you in my case. I shall not lay a hand on you." As the old proverb says, "From the wicked comes wickedness, thus I will not lay a hand on you." What is the king of Israel attacking? What are you pursuing? A dead dog, single phrase. The Lord will be judged to decide between us. May the Lord see this, defend my cause, and give me justice against you. Saul's remorse. When David finished saying these things to Saul, Saul answered, "Is that your voice, my son David?" And he wept freely. Saul then admitted to David, "You are more in the right than I am. You have treated me graciously, while I have treated you badly. You have declared this day how you treated me graciously. The Lord delivered me into your hand, and you did not kill me. For if someone comes upon an enemy, do they send them graciously on their way? So may the Lord reward you graciously for what you have done this day. And now, since I know that you will certainly become king and that the kingship over Israel shall come into your possessions, swear to me by the Lord that you will not cut off my descendant and that you will not blot out my name from my father's house." David gave Saul his oath, and Saul returned home, while David and his men went up to the strongholds. 1 Samuel chapter 25, Death of the Samuel. Samuel died, and all Israel gathered to mourn him. They buried him at his home in Ramah. Then David went down to the wilderness of Paran. Nabal and Abigail. There was a man of the mount who had a property in Carmel. He was very wealthy, owning 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. At the time, he was present for shearing of his flock in Carmel. The man's name was Nabal, and his wife was Abigail. The woman was intelligent and attractive, but Nabal, a Calebite, was harsh and bad-mannered. While in the wilderness, David heard that Nabal was shearing his flocks. So he sent 10 young men, instructing them, "Go up to the Carmel, pay Nabal a feast, and greet him in my name. Say to him, 'Peace be with you, my brother, and with your family, and with all who belong to you. I have just heard that sure are with you. Now when you suffered were with us, we did them no injuries. Neither did they miss anything while they were in Carmel. Ask your servant, and they will tell you, look kindly on this young man, since we come at the festival time. Please give your servant and your son David whatever you can.' When David's young men arrived, they delivered the entire message to Nabal in David's name, and then waited. But Nabal answered the servant of David, 'Who is David? Who is the son of Jesse? Nowadays there are many servants who run away from their masters. Must I take my bread, my wine, my meat that I have slaughtered for my own shearers, and give them to men who come from who knows where?' So David the young men retraced their steps, and on their return reported to him all that had been said. Thereupon David said to his men, 'Let everyone strap on his sword,' and everyone did so, and David put on his own sword. About 400 men went up after David, while 200 remained with the baggage. Abigail, Nabal's wife, was informed of this by one of the servants who said, "From the wilderness, David sent a messenger to greet our master, but he screamed at them. Yet these men were very good to us. We were not harmed, neither did we miss anything all the while we were living among them during our stay in the open countries. Day and night they were a wall of the protection for us the whole time we were pasturing the sheep near them. Now see what you can do, for you must realize that otherwise disaster is in store for our master and for his whole house. He is such a scoundrel that no one can talk to him." Abigail quickly got together 200 loaves, 2 skins of the wine, 5 dressed sheep, 5 seeds of the roasted grain, 100 cakes of the pressed raisins, and 200 cakes of the pressed figs, and loaded them on the donkeys. She then said to her servant, "Go on ahead, I'll follow you." But to her husband Nabal she said nothing. Hidden by mountains, she came down riding on the donkey as David and his men were coming down from the opposite direction when she met them. David had just been saying, "Indeed, it was in vain that I gathered all this man's possession in the wilderness, so that nothing of his was missing. He has repaid good with evil." May God do this to David and more, if by morning I leave a single male alive among all those who belong to him. As soon as Abigail saw David, she dismounted quickly from the donkey and, falling down, bowed low to the ground before David in homage. As she fell at his feet, she said, "My lord, let the blame be mine. Please let your maidservant speak to you. Listen to the words of your maidservant. My lord, do not pay any attention to that scoundrel Nabal, for he is just like his name. His name means a fool, and he acted a fool. I, your maidservant, did not see the young man whom my lord sent. Now therefore, my lord, as the Lord lives, as you live, the Lord has kept you from the shedding blood and from avenging yourself by your own hand. May your enemy and those who seek to harm my Lord become as Nabal. Accept this gift then, which your maidservant has brought for my Lord, and let it be given to young men who follow my Lord. Please forgive the offense of your maidservant, for the Lord shall certainly establish a resting house for my Lord. Because my Lord fight the battle of the Lord, let no evil be found in you your whole life long. If any adversary pursues you to seek your life, may the life of my Lord be bound in the bundle of the living in the care of the Lord your God. May God hurl out the lips of your enemies as from the hollow of a sling. And when the Lord fulfills for my Lord the promise of the success he has made concerning you, and appoint you as ruler over Israel, you shall not have any regret or burden on your conscience, my Lord, for having shed innocent blood or for having rescued yourself. When the Lord bestows good on my Lord, remember your maidservant." David said to Abigail, "Blessed is the Lord, the God of Israel, who sent you to meet me today. Blessed is your good judgment, and blessed are you yourself. Today you have prevented me from shedding blood and rescuing myself with my own hand. Otherwise, as the Lord, the God of Israel, lives, who has kept me from harming you, if you have not come so promptly to meet me, by dawn Nabal would not have had so much as one man left alive." David then took from her what she had brought him and said to her, "Go to your home in peace. See, I have listened to your appeal and have granted your request." Nabal's death. When the Abigail came to Nabal, he was hosting a banquet in his house like that of the king, And Nabal was in festive mood and very drunk. So she said not a word to him until daybreak the next morning. But then, when Nabal was sober, his wife told him what had happened. At this his heart died within him, and he became like a stone. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal and he died. Hearing that Nabal was dead, David said, "Blessed be the Lord who has defended my cause against the insult from Nabal, and who restrained his servant from doing evils, but has repaid Nabal for his evil deeds." David then sent the proposal of the marriage to Abigail. David married Abigail and Ahinoam. When David's servant came to Abigail in Carmel, they said to her, "David has sent us to make his proposal of the marriage to you." Rising and bowing to the ground, she answered, "Let your maidservant be to the slave who washes the feet of my Lord's servant." She got up immediately, mounted a donkey, and followed David's messengers with her 5 maids attending her. She became his wife. David also married Ahinoam of the Jezreel, thus both of them were his wives. But Saul gave David's wife Michal, Saul's own daughter, to Palti, son of the Laish, who was from Galim. 1 Samuel chapter 26. David spares Saul again. Men from Ziph came to Saul in Gibeah, reporting that David was hiding on the hill of the Hachilah at the edge of the Jeshimon. So Saul went down to the wilderness of the Ziph with 3,000 of the best warriors of the Israel to search for David in the wilderness of the Ziph. Saul camped beside the road on the hill of the Hachilah at the edge of the Jeshimon. David, who was living in the wilderness, saw that Saul had come into the wilderness after him, and sent out scouts who confirmed Saul's arrivals. David then went to the place where Saul was encamped and saw the spot where Saul and his generals, Abner, son of Ner, had their sleeping quarters. Saul was lying within the camp, and all his soldiers were bivouacked around him. David asked Ahimelech the Hittite and Abishai, son of the Zeruiah, and the brother of the Joab, "Who will go down into the camp with me to Saul?" Abishai replied, "I will." So David and Abishai reached Saul's soldier by night, and there was Saul lying asleep within the camp, his spear thrust into the ground at his head, and Abner and his troops sleeping around him. Abishai whispered to David, "God has delivered your enemy into your hand today. Let me nail him to the ground with one thrust of the spear. I'll not need to strike him twice." But David said to Abishai, "Do not harm him, for who can lay a hand on the Lord's anointed and remain innocent?" As the Lord lives, David declared, only the Lord can strike him, either when the time comes for him to die or when he goes out and perishes in battles. But the Lord forbid I lay hand on the Lord anointed. Now take the spear at his head and the water jug, and let us be on our way. So David took the spear and the water jug from their place at Saul's head, and they withdrew without anyone seeing or knowing or awakening. All remained asleep because a deep slumber from the Lord had fallen upon them. And David turned to Abner. Crossing over to an opposite slope, David stood on a distant hilltop with a great distance between them. David called to army and to Abner, son of Ner, "Will you not answer, Abner?" Then Abner shot back, "Who is it that calls me?" David said to Abner, "Are you not a man? Who in Israel is your equal? Why were you not guarding your lord the king when one of his subjects came to assassinate the king, your lord? What you have done is not right. As the Lord lives, you people deserve death because you have not guarded your Lord. The anointed of the Lord go look where are the king's spear and the water jug that was at his head. Saul admitted his guilt. Saul recognized David's voice and asked, "Is that your voice, David, my son?" David answered, "Yes, my lord the king." He continued, "Why does my lord pursue his servant? What have I done? What evil am I planning? Please now let my lord the king listen to the words of his servant. If the Lord has incited you against me, may an offering please the Lord. But if it is the people who have done so, may they be cursed before the Lord. They have driven me away so that today I have no share in the Lord's heritage, but am told, go serve other gods. Do not let my blood spill on the ground far from the presence of the Lord, for the king of Israel has come out to seek a single prey, as if he were hunting partridge in the mountains." Then Saul said, "I have done wrong. Come back, David, my son. I will not harm you again, because you consider my life precious today, even though I have been a fool and have made a serious mistake." But David answered, "Here is the king's spear. Let an attendant come over to get it. The Lord repays every unrighteousness and faithfulness. Although the Lord deliver you into my hands today, I could not lay a hand on the Lord's anointed. Just as I regard your life as precious today, so may the Lord regard my life as precious and deliver me from all dangers." Then Saul said to David, "Blessed are you, my son David. You shall certainly succeed in whatever you undertake." David went his way, and Saul returned to his place. 1 Samuel chapter 27. David flees to the Philistine. David said to himself, "I shall perish someday at the hand of the Saul. I have no choice but to escape to the land of the Philistine. Then Saul will give up his continual search for me throughout the land of Israel, and I will be out of his reach." Accordingly, David departed with his 600 soldiers and went over to Achish, son of the Maol, king of Gath. David and his men lived in Gath with Achish. Each one had his family, and David had his two wives, Ahinoam from Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of the Nabal from Carmel. When Saul learned that David had fled to the Gath, he no longer searched for him. David said to Achish, "If I meet with your approval, let me have a place to live in one of the country towns. Why should your servant live with you in the royal city?" That same day, Achish gave him Ziklag, which has therefore belonged to the kings of the Judah up to present time. In all, David lived a year and 4 months in the Philistine territories. David raised Israel foes. David and his men went out on a race against the Geshurite, Girzite, and Amalekite, people living in the land between Telam on the approach to the shore and the land of Egypt. In attacking the land, David would not leave a man or a woman alive, but would carry off the sheep, oxen, donkeys, camels, and clothes. Then he would return to Achish, who would ask, "Against whom did you raid this time?" David would reply, "Against the Negev of the Judah, or against the Negev of the Jerahmeel, or against the Negev of the Kenites." David never left a man or woman alive to be brought to the Gath. He thought, "They will betray us and say, 'This is what David did.'" This was his custom as long as he lived in the Philistine territories. Achish trusted David, thinking, "His people Israel must certainly detest him. I shall have him as my vassal forever." 1 Samuel chapter 28. In those days, the Philistines mustered their military force to fight against Israel. So Achish said to David, "You realize, of course, that you and your warriors must march out the battle with me." David answered Achish, "Good, now you shall learn what your servant can do." Then Achish said to David, "I shall appoint you as my permanent bodyguard." Now Samuel was dead. All Israel had mourned him and buried him in his city, Ramah. Meanwhile, Saul had driven Midian and the diviners out of the land. Saul in despair. The Philistines rallied and coming to Shunem, they encamped Saul too. Mustered all Israel, they camped on Gilboa. When Saul saw the Philistine camp, he grew afraid and lost heart completely. He consulted the Lord, but the Lord gave no answer, neither in dream nor by Urim nor through prophets. Then Saul said to his servant, "Find me a medium through whom I can seek counsel." His servant answered him, "There is a woman in Endor who is a medium." The medium and Endors. So he disguised himself, putting on other clothes, and set out with 2 companions. They came to a woman at night, and Saul said to her, "Divine for me, conjure up the spirit, I tell you." But the woman answered him, "You know what Saul has done, how he expelled the medium and the diviners from the land. Then why are you trying to entrap me and get me killed?" But Saul swore to her by the Lord, "As the Lord lives, you shall incur no blame for this." "Whom do you want me to conjure up?" The woman asked him. "Conjure up Samuel for me," he replied. Samuel appears. When the woman saw Samuel, she shrieked at the top of her voice and said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul." But the king said to her, "Do not be afraid. What do you see?" "I see good rising from the earth," she replied. "What does he look like?" asked Saul. "An old man is coming up, wrapped in a robe," she replied. Saul knew that it was Samuel, and so he bowed his face to the ground in homage. Saul's doom. Samuel then said to Saul, "Why do you disturb me by conjuring me up?" Saul replied, "I am in great distress, for the Philistines are waging war against me, and God has turned away from me. Since God no longer answers me through prophet or in dreams, I will call upon you to tell me what should I do." To this Samuel said, "But why do you ask me? For the Lord has abandoned you for your neighbors. The Lord has done to you what he declared through me. He has torn the kingdom from your hand, and he has given it to your neighbor David. Because you disobeyed the Lord's directive and would not carry out his furious anger against the Amalekites, the Lord has done this to you today. Moreover, the Lord will deliver Israel and you as well into the hands of the Philistines. By tomorrow you and your son will be with me, and the Lord will have delivered the army of Israel into the hands of the Philistines." Immediately Saul fell full length on the ground in great fear because of the Samuel's message. He has no strength left, since he had eaten nothing all that day and night. Then the woman came to Saul, and seeing that he was quite terror-stricken, said to him, "Remember, your maidservant obeyed you. I took my life in my hands and carried out the request you made of me. Now you in turn, please listen to your maidservant. Let me set out a bit of the food for you to eat, so that you are strong enough to go on your way." But he refused, saying, "I will not eat." However, when his servant joined the woman in urging him, he listened to their entreaties, got up from the ground, and sat on a couch. The woman had a stall-fed calf in the house, which she now quickly slaughtered. Then taking flour, she kneaded it and baked unleavened bread. She set the meal before Saul and his servant, and they ate. Then they got up and left the same night. 1 Samuel chapter 29. David's aid rejected. Now the Philistines had mustered all their force in Aphrix, and the Israelites were encamped at the spring in Jezreel. As the Philistine lords were marching their unit of the 100 and 1,000, David and his warriors were marching in the rear guard with Achish. The Philistine commander asked, "What are those Hebrews doing here?" Achish answered them, "Why? There is David, the official of Saul, king of Israel. He has been with me for a year or two, and from the day he came over to me until now, I have never found fault in him." But the Philistine commander was angered at this and said to him, "Send that man back. Let him return to the place you picked out for him. He must not go down into battle with us. During the battle, he might become our enemy. For how else can he win back his master's favor, if not at the expense of our soldiers? Is this not the David for whom they sing during their dance? Saul has slain his thousands, David his tens of the thousands." So Achish summoned David and said to him, "As the Lord lives, you are honest, and I would want you with me in all my battles. To this day I have found nothing wrong with you since you came to me, but in the view of the chief you are not welcome. Live peacefully now and do nothing that might displease the Philistine chiefs." But David said to Achish, "What have I done? What fault have you found in your servant from the day I entered your service until today, that I cannot go fight against the enemy of my lord the kings?" I recognize, Achish answered David, "that you are trustworthy like an angel of the God. But the Philistine commander are saying he must not go with us into battles. So the first thing tomorrow, you and your lord servant who came with you go to place I picked out for you. Do not take to heart their worthless remarks, for you have been valuable in my service, but make an early morning start as soon as he grows light and be on your way." So David and his warriors left early in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines, and the Philistines went on up to Jezreel. 1 Samuel chapter 13. Ziklag in ruins. Before David and his men reached Ziklag on the third day, the Amalekites had raided the Negev and the Ziklag. They stormed the Ziklag and set it on fire. They took captive the women and all who were in the city, young and old, killing no one, and they hurled them out when they left. David and his men arrived at the city to find it burned to the ground and their wives, sons, and daughters taken captive. Then David and those who were with him wept aloud until they could weep no more. David's two wives, Ahinoam of the Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of the Nab from Carmel, has also been carried out. Now David found himself in great danger, for the soldiers spoke of the stoning him. So bitter were they over the fate of their sons and daughters. David took courage in the Lord his God, and said to Abiathar the priest, the son of the Elimelech, "Bring me the ephod." When Abiathar brought him the ephod, David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I pursue these raiders? Can I overtake them?" The Lord answered him, "Go in pursuit, for you will certainly overtake them and bring about a rescue. Raid on the Amalekite." So David went up with 600 as far as the Wadi Besor, where those who were to remain behind halted. David continued the pursuit with the 400, but 200 were too exhausted to cross the Wadi Besor and remained behind. An Egyptian was found in the open country and brought to David. They gave him food to eat and water to drink. They also offered a cake of the pressed figs and 2 cakes of the pressed raisins. When he had eaten, he revived, for he had not taken food nor drunken water for 3 days and 3 nights. Then David asked him, "To whom do you belong? Where do you come from?" "I am an Egyptian, the slave of the Amalekite." He replied, "My master abandoned me 3 days ago because I fell sick." We raided the Negev of the Cherethites, the territory of the Judah, the Negev of the Calebs, and we set the Ziklag on fire. David then asked him, "Will you lead me down to these raiders?" He answered, "Swear to me by God that you will not kill me and hand me over to my master, and I will lead you down to the raiders." So he led them down, and there were the Amalekites lounging all over ground, eating, drinking, and celebrating because of all the rich plunder they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from the land of the Judah. The plunder recovered. From dawn to sundown the next day, David attacked them, allowing no one to escape except 400 young men who mounted their camels and fled. David recovered everything the Amalekite had taken, and he rescued his 2 wives. Nothing was missing, small or great, the plunder or son of daughters of all that the Amalekite had taken. David brought back everything. Moreover, David took all the sheep and the oxen, and as they drove there before him, they saw it. There is David plunder. Division of the plunder. When David came to 200 men who had been too exhausted to follow him, whom he had left behind at the Wadi Besor, they came out to meet David and the men with him. As David approached, he greeted them. But all the greedy and the worthless among those who had accompanied David said, "Since they did not accompany us, we will not give them anything from the plunder, except for each man, wife, and children." But David said, "You must not do this, my brother, after what the Lord has given us. The Lord has protected us and delivered into our hands the raiders that came against us. Who could agree with this proposal of yours? Let the share of the one who goes down to the battle shall be the same as that of the one who remains with the baggage. They share alike." And from that day forward, he made this law and custom in Israel, as it still is today. David gave to the Judah. When David came to Ziklag, he sent part of the plunder to his friend, the elder of the Judah, saying, "This is a gift to you from the plunder of the enemy of the Lord, namely, to those in Bethel, Ramoth, Negev, Zathros, Aroth, Shipmoth, Estemoa, Lakal, Jerahmeelite city, and the Kenite cities, Hormah, Brashan, Arthach, Hebron, and to all places that David and his men had frequented. 1 Samuel chapter 31. Death of the Saul and his son. Now the Philistines went to war against Israel, and the Israelites fled before them and fell slain on the mountain Gilboa. The Philistines pressed hard after Saul and his sons when the Philistines had struck down Jonathan, Abinadab, and Meshua, son of Saul. The fury of the battle converged on Saul. Then the archer hit him, and he was severely wounded. Saul said to his armor-bearers, "Draw your sword and run me through, otherwise this uncircumcised will come and abuse me." But the armor-bearer, badly frightened, refused. So Saul took his own sword and fell upon it. When the armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he too fell upon his sword and died with him. Thus Saul, his 3 sons, and his armor-bearer died together on that same day. When the Israelites on the slope of the valley and those along the Jordan saw that the men of Israel had fled and that Saul and his son were dead, They abandoned their city on the flat. Then the Philistines came and lived in those cities. On the following day, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on the mountain Gilboa. They cut off Saul's head and stripped him of his armor. These they sent throughout the land of the Philistines to bring good news to temple of their idol and to the peoples. They put his armor in the temple of the Astartes, but impaled his body on the wall of the Bethshans, burial of Saul. When the inhabitants of the Jabesh Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all their warriors set out and traveled through the night. They removed the bodies of Saul and his son from all of the Bethshan, and returning to Jabesh, burned them. Then they took their bones and buried them under a tamarisk tree in the Jabesh, and fasted for 7 days.